Have you ever thought about what's going on inside your body right now? I mean, really thought about it? Because there is a hidden world inside of you, a bustling ecosystem teeming with trillions of organisms. And no, this isn't science fiction. It's your gut microbiome. And it has a huge impact on everything, from your immune system to your metabolism and even your mood. So today, we're going to take a journey into that world.
So here's what we've got on the agenda. First, we're going to meet this hidden ecosystem. Then we'll get into its origin story. Where does it all come from? After that, we're going to tackle a really big issue, what I'm calling the modern gut problem. And finally, the best part, we'll learn how you can start nourishing your own inner garden for better health.
All right, let's get right into it. Part 1, your body's hidden ecosystem. What exactly is this internal world we're talking about, and just how vast is it?
Let's start with a kind of mind-bending question. We all think of ourselves as, well, ourselves, one single human being, but what if that's not the whole story? What if you're actually more like a superorganism, a walking, talking ecosystem?
Because in a very real way, that's exactly what you are. The average human body is home to an estimated 38 trillion microbial cells. To put that into perspective, you have more microbial cells than human cells in your body. They're on your skin, in your mouth, your nose, basically anywhere your body meets the outside world.
But the absolute epicenter of this microbial world is our digestive tract. This community is what we call the gut microbiome. And the density in there, it is just unbelievable. These microbes are packed in so tightly that they can make up anywhere from 30 to 50% of your poop. It's a truly dynamic, incredibly dense ecosystem.
So you have to wonder, where does this entire personal ecosystem even come from? It wasn't always there. So in this next section, we're going to uncover the origin story of your microbiome. And it all starts the moment you're born.
Now, here's a really critical fact. We aren't born with our microbiome. A fetus actually develops in a totally sterile environment. So you're born as a clean slate. Your microbial community is built piece by piece only after you enter the world. It's kind of like a brand new island that's just appeared in the ocean, waiting for its first inhabitants to arrive.
And this colonization process happens in a few key stages. Right at birth, we get our first big wave of microbes from our mom and the surrounding environment. That first year of life is this incredibly dynamic time. Lots of changes, lots of new arrivals. And then, by the time you're 2 or 3 years old, that community starts to settle down and look more like an adult's. This whole period is an absolutely crucial window for building a healthy, resilient microbiome for life.
And this is fascinating. How we enter the world really matters. Recent studies have shown that a baby born vaginally gets its first big dose of microbes from the birth canal and, yes, maternal poop. But a baby born by C-section, it gets colonized mainly by skin microbes. We're talking about 2 completely different starting points, which can actually set the microbiome on 2 different paths for life.
And of course, it doesn't stop at birth. So many other things shape our early microbiome. Things like breast milk versus formula, if we're exposed to antibiotics early on, whether we have pets in the house, and just all the everyday contact we have with our family and the world around us. It just goes to show you how responsive and adaptable this ecosystem is in those first few years. Okay, this all brings us to a huge issue in our modern world. Let's call it the modern gut problem. It's really a tale of 2 different microbiomes, the one our ancient ancestors had and the one that most of us living in industrialized countries have today. To really wrap our heads around this, you have to look at it from an evolutionary perspective. Researchers who study this stuff point out that the microbiomes of traditional populations, hunter-gatherer groups who live much like our ancestors did, are way more like the microbiome our bodies evolved with over millions of years. Which of course raises a pretty big question. Is the gut most of us have today the one our bodies were actually designed for? And when you compare them side by side, the difference is just, well, it's stark. Traditional populations generally have incredibly high microbial diversity, which makes their gut ecosystems really resilient and stable. In the industrialized world, though, we see much lower diversity. That leads to an ecosystem that's easily disturbed and less stable. And here's the kicker. This loss of diversity is being linked more and more to the explosion of chronic inflammatory diseases we see all around us. So what on earth is driving this change? Well, this chart shows one of the biggest smoking guns. Traditional hunter-gatherers, like the Hadza people in Africa, eat somewhere between 100 and 150 grams of fiber every single day. The average person in an industrialized nation, maybe 15 grams. That is a massive 7 to 10-fold drop in the main food source for our gut microbes. We're essentially starving them. So the result is pretty clear. Our modern diets and lifestyles have left many of us with a depleted inner garden, and a growing number of scientists are convinced that this loss of our microbial partners is a huge factor predisposing us to all sorts of chronic inflammatory and metabolic diseases.
Okay, I know that sounds a little bleak, but I promise there is some really good news here. It's not a lost cause. So let's move into our last section and talk about what the science says we can do to start restoring and taking care of our own gut ecosystem.
So this is the million-dollar question, right? Can we actually use diet to rebuild our depleted microbiomes? Well, to find out, researchers at Stanford University set up a really cool study to test two powerful strategies against each other.
And honestly, the results were not what a lot of people expected. The group on the high-fiber diet, they had a pretty mixed response. It really only seemed to help people who already had a fairly diverse gut to begin with. But the group on the high-fermented food diet? Wow, it consistently increased microbial diversity and lowered markers of inflammation for every single person in that group.
So this research gives us two really clear, actionable strategies for a healthier gut. Strategy 1, introduce new beneficial microbes. You do that by eating a variety of fermented foods. And strategy 2, nourish the microbes you've already got. You do that by eating a diet that's rich in dietary fiber, those complex carbs they love to eat.
So what does this actually look like when you're at the grocery store? We're talking about things like unsweetened yogurt, kefir, kimchi, and sauerkraut. Now, here's a really important tip. For things like sauerkraut, you have to buy the kind from the refrigerated section. The ones on the shelf in cans or jars have usually been pasteurized, which means all those beneficial live microbes have been killed off. So always check the label for live cultures.
And there is one more really crucial rule that applies no matter what you're eating. Try to avoid highly processed foods. The science is becoming very clear that common additives, things like emulsifiers, certain artificial sweeteners, and loads of refined sugar, can actually damage your gut lining and harm your good microbes.
So ultimately, this is all about a shift in perspective. A healthy gut isn't about finding one perfect diet or following a super rigid set of rules. It's about being a gardener. It's about actively cultivating a diverse, resilient, and thriving ecosystem inside of you.
So, we've journeyed through this incredible hidden world, we've seen how it's built, and we've learned how we can support it. Now the last question is really for you. Your inner garden is waiting. How are you going to choose to nourish it?